when I met Michael, we immediately became best friends.
He was like my first really true white best friend, if I had to, draw it all out here.
We went to rival high schools, but the truth is Mike was in the glee club and I was on the basketball team. so we played each other, but we were in different activities, let's put it that way. At university, Michael and I were inseparable. I mean, literally.
We couldn't get in the same room for the first semester and it about killed us. So when we finally got in the same room, we actually took our bunks off of their little, stands and put them down next to each other so we could sleep beside each other. So we wanted just to, be pals and just know that, okay, my buddy's asleep and everything's cool,
There was something that just clicked.
Just like brothers, he's right about that. We were like brothers in college.
Probably the most intense relationship until my wife that I've ever had.
Wait, what? Play that again.
Probably the most intense relationship until my wife that I've ever had.
Did he just say that? That wasn't just anybody talking. That was TobyMac, one of the biggest names in Christian music. And who was he talking about? Michael Tate. The same Michael Tate who just confessed to living a double life for nearly 20 years. The same Michael whose bandmates say they were completely blindsided. But here's the thing, this interview isn't new. That moment wasn't hidden. It's been out there. But no one looked at it twice, until now. Because now, after everything we've learned, that moment doesn't sound like a joke anymore. It doesn't sound like brotherhood. It sounds emotional, personal, possibly even romantic. Because Michael didn't just tour with Toby, they prayed together, lived together, made history together. So if Michael was hiding something, how close was Toby to the truth? And what if this clip was the clue the whole time? Let's stop pretending this makes sense. Michael Tate says he was living a double life for almost 20 years. 20 good years. Not something he slipped into last summer, not a moment of weakness. 20 years of secrets, of silence, of shame. And the newsboys? They say they had no idea. Blindsided, shocked, heartbroken. This is what they said, word for word. Last night our hearts were shattered when we read the news alleging drug abuse and inappropriate sexual actions by our former lead singer, Michael Tate. While Michael has not addressed these allegations, we are devastated even by the implications. First and foremost, our hearts are with the victims who have bravely shared their stories. If you are a victim, we urge you to come forward. We absolutely do not condone any form of sexual assault. The four of us are husbands and fathers. Between the four of us, we have 14 children. Our wives and children have made many sacrifices while we have dedicated our lives to playing music together that glorifies God. We are horrified, heartbroken, and angry at this report, and in many ways, we feel as if we and our families have been deceived for the last 15 years. When he left the band in January, Michael confessed to us and our management that he had been living a double life, but we never imagined that it could be this bad. Jeff, Jody, Duncan, and Adam. So, you mean to tell me, no one noticed? You toured with this man, slept in the same buses, shared stages, shared dressing rooms, shared meals, shared prayers. But somehow, not a single red flag? And let's not forget TobyMac. The same Toby who once said his relationship with Michael was the most intense of his life, before his wife. That wasn't just a casual friendship. That was deep, emotional, maybe even codependent. And here's what really messes with your head. This clip, this wasn't recorded after the confession. It wasn't some tearful reaction. It's old, years old. But when you listen to it now, it doesn't sound innocent. It sounds like a man who was already feeling something he couldn't explain. Something that maybe he never dared to name. There's an old interview of Michael Tate that you won't find easily online anymore. It's been taken down, wiped from its original platform, like someone didn't want it to be seen. But the internet never forgets, and now, neither will we. This wasn't just any interview. It was part of a marriage campaign, a Christian promo for a book titled The Dating Manifesto, a drama-free plan for pursuing marriage with purpose. And guess who they used to help promote it? Michael Tate, a man who never got married. Strange choice, isn't it? A lifelong bachelor giving advice on how to pursue godly marriage? You start to wonder, why him? A man whose personal life was already raising questions and whose answers raised even more. What message were they really trying to send? And when you hear what he actually said in that interview, the contradictions start to pile up.
Being single is not by choice for me. I spent time last week, speaking of TobyMac, one of my besties in life, and his wife and his 5 kids.
Not by choice? Then what happened? What's stopping him? Was it heartbreak, something forced, or a truth he couldn't say out loud? Because in that moment, he wasn't just answering a question, he was dodging one.
And I said, if I have one regret in life, this is deep. I haven't said this much on film, guys, so I appreciate this. One regret in life, I look back, I would probably gotten married earlier, period, and had some kids, because now I'm 49, I'm not sitting there going, oh, lonely, woe is me, lonely Prince Tate, or whatever. No, none of that. The fact is, I think I'd have made a pretty good dad.
A regret this deep from a man this visible, yet he never did it. Why? Was he afraid of commitment or protecting something bigger? He talks about family like it was a missed flight, like he watched it leave and couldn't get on. And then he blames himself.
My mom always said, honey, don't marry the one you can live with, marry the one you can't live without. And there's lots of those girls I've met in the past I could live without. The true honest side, I'm pretty selfish, because the flesh side of me says, I want you when I want you, and when I go do my own thing, I'm gonna do my own thing. So that kind of attitude, probably not healthy for a marriage.
Selfish or selective? Is this the voice of a man who couldn't settle down, or a man who never could be fully known?
I look at it both sides. You can be Paul and not have kids, not have a wife. But I see myself as Paul now, so to speak. But.
And just like that, he name drops Paul, the Apostle Paul, the symbol of celibate ministry, devotion without distraction. He paints himself as Paul, the celibate missionary, but also longs to be a father. He wants the word, but he also wants his flesh. He jokes, he spins, he backtracks. And through it all, we saw a man torn. Not just between marriage and ministry, but between two completely different lives.
I would have much rather, in another mind life, been like, okay, you know what? Hey, why not have kids, get married, have a couple kids, and pass on the Tate name, you know? So that's just reality.
So which is it, Michael? The apostle or the father? The messenger or the man who can't explain what he's running from?
I'm not gonna run from it. If it works out, more power to it. I'll be Abraham. Send me a Sarah, you know?
Abraham and Sarah, both? Why refer to yourself as the husband and the wife? Was it just a joke, or was it a slip, something too revealing to be explained? Because now it sounds less like ministry and more like double speak, a man hiding in plain sight. And maybe that's why the interview disappeared, because behind the promo smiles was a man unraveling his own secret without even knowing it. After Michael Tate's confession went public, the response from his former bandmates was swift. The newsboys released a short, clean statement. They said they were grieved, that they were unaware, that they never saw it coming. But let's ask a real question. How could they not know? This wasn't a stranger crashing into their world. This was their frontman, their brother, the face of their brand for over a decade. So what exactly were they unaware of? Tate wasn't just close to the band, he was family, especially with TobyMac, the man he called his bestie for life. He said their friendship was the most intense relationship he'd ever had before marriage. That's not casual, that's soul deep. And yet now, when everything breaks down, it's silence, distance, deniability. How do you go from soul brothers to we didn't know? Because when Toby spoke about Michael, it wasn't confusion, it was something else. It sounded like loss, like heartbreak, like grief with no words allowed. So here's the real question. Was the band truly blind to Tate's double life? Or were they trained to look the other way? Let's take a step back. If Michael Tate was living a double life for this long, where was everyone? Because this wasn't just a friend group, this was a brotherhood. TobyMac called their bond the most intense relationship of his life before his wife. So how does a brother miss the storm happening right beside him? Or did he? This wasn't a stranger hiding in the shadows. This was one of Christian music's frontmen, a constant on tour, a voice in every living room. So if no one saw the signs, what does that say about the system around him? Were they blind or just silent? And now we find out that long before the public ever raised questions, there was already a quiet clip buried in Christian media, a forgotten interview about marriage, about loneliness, about a man who confessed on camera that being single was never his choice. It was meant to promote a book about drama-free marriage. But now, that clip raises more questions than answers. Why was it taken down? Why was Tate, of all people, used to promote it? And how deep does this contradiction run? Because if that video stayed hidden, what else has? Michael Tate has spoken. But what he said, only raised more questions. The regret, the relationships, the contradictions. This wasn't a random confession. It was years in the making. And if this is what he's finally admitting, what else has been buried? Stay tuned, we're just getting started.